Yes. I do have pens. I just want to make sure I have one. Here we go. Yeah, you're welcome.
Whatever. You can too. I do. I have a lot to say. So what are the boys doing these days?
Torn is works in at Panther Log. It's a restaurant downtown St. Paul.
Okay.
He's been assistant general manager and a server, so he's kind of a jack of all trades down there. And Nick actually was building houses, and he and Maggie, Brian's daughter, have 2 children.
Oh my gosh, really? Isn't that fun? Megan has 3.
Do they live around here?
Yeah, they're 5, 3, and 1. And we live in Birchwood. Megs lives 4 miles that way, and Lips lives 4 miles this way. That's perfect. We are very
You want to
grateful.
make the introduction?
Yeah, in fact, I'm going to ask if we move from unfinished, anything regarding the law enforcement, we can move it up on the agenda since it's here.
Yep. Okay. It's 7, and there. I'm going to call the June 21st, 2022 meeting of the White Bear Lake Conservation District Board to order. We have a quorum, and we're called to order. So it takes care of items 1 and 2 on the agenda. Next item on the agenda is approval of tonight's agenda. And does anybody have any adjustments that they'd like to make to the agenda?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We do have Michael Tambago from the Ramsey County Sheriff's Patrol. He's one of our Water Patrol deputies. And since he is here and seeing that there's not a lot before the unfinished business on the agenda, I would respectfully ask that we move the Ramsey, I guess it'd be item 7, perhaps in its entirety, perhaps not, but at least as it relates to the Water Patrol, if we could move that up in front of new business and after public comment, I think that would be respectful of law enforcement who's here.
That sounds great. We'll just move that one item up and keep the rest of the items where they are, hey? Okay. Any other adjustments? Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That passes. We have an agenda. Next item is approval of the May meeting minutes. Does anybody have any adjustments to those minutes? Would anybody like to make a motion to approve the May meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve the May meeting minutes. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that passes. So public comment time, we reserve 15 minutes at each meeting for items that are not on the agenda. Is there anybody in the crowd that would like to take advantage of the 15 minutes? Okay, very good. We'll move on. Next item, Ramsey County Water Patrol. And Alan, would you make the introduction again, please?
Certainly, Mr. Chair. This would be the law enforcement introduction, which is the second of 2. Not sure what the Ramsey County Water Patrol concerns are. They're also under that agenda item, but in any event, did reach out as we talked last month about getting someone from the Water Patrol here. Eric Tambaga is a sergeant with Ramsey County Sheriff's Office, and he is here to make a brief presentation, introduce himself to those who don't know who's actually on the Water Patrol. Eric Bratt is another member of the Sheriff's Patrol that couldn't be here tonight. He has appeared before you guys before. It's been a few years, but I'm not sure if Michael has, and if he has, I don't believe that he's made a presentation. So without further ado, I would invite him to the microphone to introduce himself and perhaps hand out goodies and I guess address any questions that the board has.
Hi, good evening. Again, my name is Sergeant Mike Tambaga, and I work in the Water Patrol Unit. I've been with the Sheriff's Office now for 18 and a half years. And during my time, again, I worked 4 years in the Sheriff's Office, Water Patrol Unit. Our job is to provide public safety on our waterways, our lakes and trails, county parks, making sure everybody's safe. As far as the boating season so far, with the rain, it's been a little bit slow, but with the warmer weather, things are getting really busy. I was just at Ramsey Beach. The lot is very full. So with that, I know recently we had our contract, our grant with the White Bear Lake Conservation District was signed off on, which is great because that provides us more deputies to come in and provide police services. We have 6 full-time deputies that work in Water Patrol, but with the extra grant money with the Conservation District and Shoreview, also with the DNR, that provides more services. We're able to bring in part-time deputies. We have 4 that come on for the season, for the boating season. We're also currently working on the contract for the invasive species, so we're hoping to have that hammered down here in the next end of the month with the county. I know with the grant that provides us another 240 hours for the boating season to provide for white bear. So far, we've already done 60 hours on the water. Just with the influx of the high times of the weekends. It's great to have the extra resources that are out there to help us make sure everybody's safe on the water. Is there any questions that you guys have for me per se, or go ahead?
If someone wants to reach you, how do we go about doing that if there's a problem on the lake?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we get a lot of people that are concerned about things that happen on the water, and they're like, well, it's not really an emergency. Do I call 911? What's the non-emergency number? Or should I call the office number for the Water Patrol Unit? I can tell you, just call 911. That's the best option. Even if it's not necessarily an emergency, really what that creates is a call for service where whoever is on duty at that time will respond to that call and deal with whatever's going on. If you call our office, that's Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. If you call during the weekend, it won't do you any good. We won't get that message until the following Monday.
Okay. I was looking more at boats, going way over the speed limit, and their radios or their stereos or whatever on their boats just blasting music. I mean, it's really not an emergency, but it is something that's very disturbing.
Yep. Yeah, that's something that, again, too, you could call 911, and then that would send a Water Patrol deputy out there, and we'd be able to handle that, what's going on. So.
Thank you.
Yep. Yes, sir.
If you don't have someone on the lake, what's your response time if we call somebody 911 for the lake?
We have a really good response time. Typically we have 2 to 3 people that are on duty. So, and we respond to every water emergency that happens in Ramsey County. Ramsey County, we have 82 lakes that we're responsible for. I believe 23 of them, though, you can only do recreational boating. We have also 18 miles of the Mississippi River that we provide police services for. And we can get to the river 5 minutes. We have a pretty good response time. We also work with the White Bear Lake Fire Department. Actually, Commander Brott was able to get together with those guys last week to get prepared for the fireworks display that's going to happen over the 4th of July. They did kind of a test run with the new platform, and everything worked out great last week.
So the 60 hours that you mentioned, how many of those hours are on the lake? Are all of them, or a majority?
So that's a great question. A good majority of it, I'd say about 85 to 90% of it is on the water. The rest of it, guys have to get in. They sign up to get their squad car. We do have a boat that's at the VFW which is nice. The VFW works with us. They provide that slip for free. So we do have a boat on the water. If we need other boat resources, though, they're going to have to bring that from 5 south of Wausau. That's where our station is in Little Canada. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you, and thank all of your colleagues for all you're doing on the lake to keep everyone safe. I have a couple of comments. Last year, I know I spoke to the deputy about bow riding a lot of time, and you guys issued a couple safety tickets last summer, so thank you for that. But I'm still seeing a fair amount of it. You know, kids sitting on the front of a pontoon outside the guardrail, or someone sitting on the gunnel of a boat. I saw a couple over Memorial Day weekend, and it's quite dangerous. So if you wouldn't mind keeping an eye out for that.
I will definitely pass on to the deputies that we'll be looking for that, especially over the 4th of July.
Yeah.
Increase in volume.
The other thing I've seen personally is a lot of boats getting too close to towed, like tubers or water skiers. They get too close following, making
Sure.
it pretty dangerous, especially if a child would fall off a tube or something. And then I work on our social media for the Conservation District, and we get a lot of comments about noise coming from pontoon parties. I don't know what that exactly means, but if you guys wouldn't mind watching out for that. And then a lot of comments on fishermen getting too close to wildlife or casting towards wildlife,
Oh, okay.
like the wildlife harassment in general.
Sure, we'll definitely pass
Thank
those
you.
on to the other deputies and let them know they'll look for those things on the water.
Alan?
Thank you again, Sergeant. Just because this will be a question that I think some people have and they don't really know they have it, but you might as well answer it since you and I just got done talking a little bit about it. Describe what the Water Patrol considers to be their jurisdiction in terms of activities that you heard a little bit. You know, when do we call? Is this something that you'd respond to? And so what's the philosophy of the Sheriff's Department when it comes to what you'll respond to when you're on patrol? Where does your jurisdiction stop? I think it'd be the easiest way to answer the question.
Sure, that's a great question. We're kind of like the primary agency for anything that happens in the water. So any water emergency that happens on there, we're going to be the agency, whether it's like in St. Paul or Roseville, any of those other cities, we're going to be the primary agency. If we were to have a death, we would do the investigation on that piece. A lot of times, though, too, we would come alongside and kind of work together with other agencies. You know, as far as, like I said, anything on the water, that's ours. On the land, like, you know, White Bear Lake, City of White Bear Lake is going to be dealing with that stuff. So, yeah.
What about in the water? Since the county line crosses the lake, you have jurisdiction on the whole lake?
Yeah, that's correct. And, you know, with White Bear Lake, we border with Washington County. You know, Washington County doesn't, once in a while, they'll have a boat out there, but we're primarily the agency that's going to respond to any water emergency that happens. A lot of times, too, if they get the call on their side, they'll ask us, hey, we know you guys have a boat on the water. Would you respond to that call? And we always do. So, yep.
Further answer that, because we've had that case before where these guys have been in hot pursuit, and by the time they pull someone over, they're on the other side of the lake, and so a very we'll call it talented attorney basically said, well, you can't be prosecuting me in Ramsey County because it happened in Washington County. So I simply dismissed the ticket and brought it in Washington County. So it doesn't really depend on who got them. It doesn't, to me, really matter where we do it. So the law is still the same that they're enforcing, and it's equally enforceable in Washington County as it is in Ramsey County. So these guys might be the primary, but if someone wants me to go into Washington County instead, that's where we go. So they do have concurrent jurisdiction. You know, most of these things are pursuit and eyesight driven, and so misdemeanors can go across those borders without any problem at all. So I would say that they definitely can patrol the whole lake, even though technically there's a little bright line on a map that goes right through the middle of it. Fair?
That's correct. Yep, that's correct.
Any additional questions? Okay, well, again, and just to echo Meredith's comment, thank you for the work that you do, and thank you for taking time to come out and talk with us tonight.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I did bring some business cards. I can leave it on the desk here for you. And I did bring some boating guides, too, if you guys want to look at those for the 2022.
That sounds good.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Does that cover, Mr. Chair, both of the items then, as it relates to Water Patrol?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, good.
Okay. So we're on to new business, and the Conservation District office is reopened. And I should have probably done this earlier, but Sherry Howe, our new administrative assistant, is with us tonight. Welcome, Sherry. Glad to have you.
Nice to be here.
And so far, Sherry has really dove in and is doing a really nice job for us. Sherry, would you mind just saying a little bit about yourself and give us an idea?
Sure. So thank you for the opportunity to work with you. I do have a passion for water protection myself, so it's really nice to be involved in an organization like this. I was a retired teacher as of June 2021. I was retired for maybe 9 months, and now I'm working again. I do have a passion for organizing and office, and then with my love of water, I'm really happy to be working here with everybody. And I want you to know that however I can be of service, please let me know. I really still am learning the ropes and probably will for the whole yearly cycle. And so please help me to understand what I need to do. And if I call on you for questions, it's really helpful if you get back to me so that I can take care of things. Oh, and like, that's okay. The other thing is I just want to let you know that I will not be at the next board meeting. I have a trip to Alaska planned, so I just want to let you know. Have that planned for a long time, but I will be back for sure after that. My trips I will be taking so I don't interfere with that. So anyways, thank you for having me, and I'm glad to be here.
All right, thank you. And can you tell us, Sherry, what the hours are for the office?
Certainly. So I believe you had hours like this before. Tuesdays and Thursdays, I am in the office from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Every third Thursday or Tuesday when we have board meetings, I will be here for the full day from 10 o'clock until after the board meeting. So if you need to come in, I will be here for that as well. Otherwise, I sometimes work remote, but honestly, I'm in the office all the time because there's a lot to do.
Okay, thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, buoys. Mike?
Buoys, our shallow water buoys, we need to restock. We're totally out of them. We had a couple in the office, but we had to use them. We had 2 break over between the end of last year, and I think they were broken when we took them out of the lake, and they're not functional now, so we got rid of them. We had to divert a buoy from Ordway's Bar to over to Bel Air Beach because there was a gap there that people were going through and just needed another buoy over there. So we had 2 old ones in the office, which we put into service on Ordway Bar. We're still short a couple for there. And the freight, we've been getting them for quite a while from Royland Buoys in Wisconsin. And the freight is, because they're so big and awkward, the freight is horrendous. So if you order 2 or 3, the freight's almost as much as if you order 6. So I'm proposing to order 6 buoys. They're $147 each. The freight is $167.74. And just for 2 buoys, it's half of that, maybe a little bit more. So I just thought, well, let's stock up, and we won't have to do this for a while. The total bill is $1,049.74. We had budgeted $1,000 into shallow water buoys, but part of that is putting them in and taking them out. In fact, half of that is putting them in and taking them out. It's $250 to put them in, $250 to take them out. So that leaves us $500 to spend, so we would be going over budget by $549.74. But we need the buoys. We have to be prepared in case we have to replace a couple that break, and they do wear out. They don't last forever. They're out there pounding 24 hours a day, all summer long, no matter what. And so I'd like to make a motion that we purchased 6 shallow water buoys from Royland Buoys for a total of $1,049.74, and that will come out of budget item 660.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to purchase the buoys. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That passes. Thank you, Mike. And next, invasive yellow iris Iris infestation survey. It's down for Meredith and Scott, whichever one of you, or either of you.
Are you the invasive? You're the one who found them.
Yeah, I can talk about it,
Yeah, that'd be
but
great.
there's some discussion points. So invasive yellow iris was found again in commercial, or it was first found on Lake Avenue in 2020. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mike. Was it 2020? Was it 2020 that was found?
You to talk about it? Well, what I found out about it was it's on land, and our jurisdiction is in the water. So I don't know how far up on land we go.
I think it was reported by some kayakers.
But we have one plant in the water and numerous ones along the shoreline on land. In Lions Park, one at Docks of White Bear, and yellowtail iris, and then talking with the DNR, it's like a level 2 invasive. It's not like, you can go to the nursery and buy it. So it's not like it's this thing that's going to take over the world. But it does grow by the roots. It's kind of hard to get rid of unless you use a chemical, or you can dig them up. And if you dig them up after just keep at it a couple of years, it will die. If you cover it with like black plastic or something, it'll die off. You get rid of it. So it's easy. You can get rid of it, but we have to make people aware that they should do it. Now, 2 years ago, we treated probably 19 to 25 plants, but they were all in the water. So it was all in our jurisdiction. And it cost about $900, and that's what we did. But if we start getting into people's yards, I think we're asking for trouble.
Yeah, we really don't have authority to go on land and spray people's plants. I suppose we could write them a letter.
I would think that would be a good idea.
I guess, yeah, if we write them a letter, we could carbon the city that they're in.
You did an information piece, which was really good. Maybe you'd include that into the letter or part of it and say, that it's been reported that you have this plant on your shoreline or in the water right by your shore and that it should, according to the DNR, it should be taken care of. Something like that.
Yeah, I think we could do that. Now, I'm wondering if it's just this one location, if it's worth it at this point to go around the whole lake, while they're blooming to see if there's more, or do we just note it as it pops up, I guess?
I don't know. I guess I believe in sharing the information we have. If it's not much information, it's still information that they should know. If they want to do anything about it and let it wait till it gets bigger, that's not. You can't do anything about that. But at least they've been notified. That
and right now there's just one in the water.
One large clump in the water. Everything else is on land.
Yeah, would we want to treat that this year, or can we kind of watch it and kill a few more?
I don't know if we would want to treat one plant.
Yeah, I don't think that's what I'm wondering.
We have to get a permit if we did it, and then, which is, no big deal. The DNR does not charge us for permits. They charge, the public, but they don't charge us. But I don't think the applicator would, want to come out for one plant.
Unless you have the same applicant who's doing.
And there are easy ways to get rid of it yourself without getting a permit. You just, cover it with plastic or dig it up.
And Mike, with the people that do the milfoil treatment, would they be appropriate to treat that plant?
Well, they're using a different chemical, so they'd have to retool to do it. And that's who I would have do it. But would they do one plant? I don't know.
Would you just ask them what they think about that?
I'd have to start now by applying for the permit. Then I have to do a map and show where it is, and then drop the map, and then send it into the DNR and wait for approval. But the thing is that if they start popping up around the place, do we want to be chasing it around, or do we want people to take care of their own areas?
Is there a way to get emails out to people or letters to people who live on the shoreline, letting them know that this is a possibility, that it could happen on your shoreline, and not just those people who now have it, but looking to be proactive to make sure that future plants get taken care of?
To get a permit and have an applicator come, they're not going to come out every week because we find another one.
Yeah.
No.
They're going to want a total map of the lake, total treatment, done.
And I guess
So it's kind of complicated.
if we applied to the DNR for treatment, it would be just for the known plant. And if other plants popped up in the interim between the application for the permit and the treatment, we wouldn't be able to treat those because they weren't in the DNR permit. Is that correct?
To treat it with a chemical, you have to have a DNR permit. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm just asking, if we find one plant and we get a permit to treat that one plant and then others pop up, it seems like the DNR wouldn't want us to just go around treating. They would want that included in the permit, eh?
Well, you have an option of reporting it to the DNR, and they'll keep track of what has been found. So they care about it.
Yeah.
But they're not just going to say, well, yeah, just go treat this one too. No, they don't do that.
Right.
They have to report to higher-ups what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, some of those permits are seasonal. I mean, like
Yeah.
the one that we have at our lake cabin is like a seasonal permit to do, aquatic weeds, right?
Yeah.
And you have to notify them 24 hours in advance or something before
Right.
you do it, but it's for the whole season, so.
Yeah. I mean, by the time, for that one plant we're talking about that Meredith discovered, and it was really sharp to discover that because it wasn't flowering or blooming or anything. It'd be easier to go out there with a shovel and dig it up, and don't need a permit, would take less time, it'd be done in an hour.
Sure. And can we...
And the city could do it, it's right on there off Lions Park,
Got it.
about 3 feet offshore.
Meredith?
Well, just some comments. So it was first found on Lake Avenue, and we had it years ago, and then it was eradicated. So I think there's a possibility that it's anywhere between that first infestation and Commercial Bay now, and perhaps somewhere else on the lake. So if we get information out there, whether it's by the White Bear Press or social media or sending a letter to all homeowners, do we want them to report back to us if they have an infestation so we can start mapping it for continued surveillance, like next year? Or
I think so. I think
You
that's
think?
a good idea, personally.
report to the office by email, or that'd be fine? Okay. With just their address and saying they think they have it?
Yeah, or if anybody sees any somewhere, they could say, oh, I noticed this on or app.
Okay.
I would not like to get into treating it because we can't treat the milfoil around docks. And people have very specific concerns about what's around their dock. And if we start getting involved in that and the neighbor says, well, I don't want chemicals in mine, and it's just going to drift over, we're going to open up a hornet's nest. So that's why I'd really like to have people with the lake shore that if they have it on their lake shore, they should be able to take care of it.
Yeah, but the tracking seems like a appropriate thing to do. Yeah.
So how does everyone think we should get this word out to lakeshore owners?
Like you
All of the
mentioned,
above?
The White Bear Press is always good.
Okay.
We've at one time tried to establish a mailing list, and that never got too far.
Oh, did it?
But
Yeah.
I know some realtors seem to be able to target lake homes, so it's doable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there's that type of
we
thing.
did do mailings on zebra mussels when they first appeared. And it was a little bit of work. I got the mailing list from the 2 counties, right? And, we printed up brochures and sent them out. I'm not quite sure how much people, noticed that.
Well, if we do go through the White Bear Press, it would be a good idea to have a picture showing what they actually look like so people know what to look for.
Yeah, and there's some identification necessary because, like at Docks of White Bear, they had yellow iris, but it wasn't yellowtail iris. And you kind of have to know what to look for.
Yeah.
So,
Maybe as a starting point, if we can use social media,
Yep.
we can have it on our website.
It's on the website.
Yeah, and a photo of one, I'm sure, is on the website so people can
We
look at
just
that.
need to add some language to contact us if people have it on their property so we can start mapping it to our website, I think. And then I'll add it to our social media, which we'll probably get between 2,000 and 5,000 views on that. But I don't know if it's lakeshore owners.
Yeah.
Sure.
They are in bloom between May and July. So they're probably in bloom now, if they're going to bloom, I guess. I don't know if that one out in the water is blooming, right now. But, now is the time to be looking for it, because it's a whole lot easier.
Produce seeds.
Well, maybe we start with that.
Would you like the Lake Education Committee to start to develop a brochure to potentially send to homeowners?
Whatever, yeah.
I think that's a good idea. I think it's developing the brochure at least has it ready for us, and maybe if we're too late this year, we could use it early next season, April, May or something. So I think that would be good. I don't know how to get reliable contact information for people around the lake. I guess Scott has done it though, so it's doable.
Yeah, I mean, it's not simple. You have to find the person in each county who, has the property information, then you get them in different formats in a computer. And
Do you still have that information?
but that's from like 5 years ago.
Diane?
I think when Sherry and I were looking through things, I think we found some labels
I think that's what it was for.
mailings, and so it may be in the office already, just waiting to be used.
Okay.
Oh, that's good.
But we'd have to check to make sure.
Okay. Okay, so plan of action, social media, website, hopefully the press covers it, because I think people get their news that way. And then Sherry, if you want to try to confirm what those address labels are and see if those are still accurate. Any other steps at the moment?
Do we want to send letters? Well, I guess they're just two properties right now: City of White Bear for Lions Park and Admiral D's for Docks of White Bear, right?
Yeah, although the Admiral D's wasn't a yellow tail iris, that was just a yellow iris. Is that?
The Docks of White Bear has one plant wasn't flowering a few days ago. One big clump about like this, and then they had just regular yellow iris by where you walk out to the dock.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of hard to tell the difference. It's the yellowtail iris, the invasive, has a 3-leaf clump, and they're a little bit thicker in the middle. But it's kind of hard. So, but there is a true and tested way to do it. But Scott doesn't think that we should do it.
Rubbing leaf on yourself, is that to see if there's a reaction?
The sap on your arm or your hand. And if it doesn't sting, it's the native plant, and if it stings, and it really does sting, then that's yellowtail iris. So, but it's quick. It takes about a second.
Nice.
Okay, so I think it would be valuable. So it's if Sherry knew where the locations of these two plants are, she could at least get in touch with them and say, hey, we noticed you have this plant. Would you mind trying to physically remove it? Okay. And so, Sherry, you'll have to find out from someone locations.
Okay.
And maybe Meredith is the best place to start with that?
Sure.
Okay,
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, any other discussion on that item? Yeah, and I'll, thank you, Meredith, for being such a good investigator there. Okay, on to the next item, University of Minnesota Prop Thrust Study Research Support. And we have a video, but before we do the video or watch the video, I'd just like to I had a conversation with Jeff Marr. So we sent the letter that was approved at our last board meeting. And then I had a subsequent conversation with Jeff Marr, who was one of the authors of the study. And I just want to make a few points that he made in our conversation. So the first one, wind-caused waves have a wavelength of about 10 feet, so from crest to crest, 10 feet. And wake boats have a wavelength of about 20 feet. And the longer the wavelength, generally more energy. The depth of the wave impact is about half of the wavelength. So a 10-foot wavelength have a depth of impact of about 5 foot, 20 foot wavelength have a depth of impact of about 10 feet. And so those longer wavelengths hit the bottom sooner as those go out. Wind waves impact different areas of the lake differently. If you're on this side of the lake and the wind's coming, you may not have much impact, but if you're on the other side of the lake where there's a long fetch and the waves can build up, you might have more impact, whereas boat waves are wherever the boats are. So for wind-driven waves, people can armor the shoreline for protection, but with the boat-driven waves or produced waves, they might not have that armoring of the shoreline. They don't have an answer to how waves from other boats similar in size and weight compare to wake boat generated waves. However, most boats plane when they're going across the water, whereas wake boats are trying to do the opposite. They're trying to get deeper in the water and produce more of a wake. And that's a different paradigm that we historically haven't had in Minnesota on our lakes. And then the last thing is, second to last thing, the prop angle for a wake boat is about 30 degrees from the water surface. So water surface, the prop angle is about 30 degrees. Whereas on a regular boat, when they're up and running fast and they're in this kind of a position, then it might be 15 degrees, but generally it's less than that. So that prop wash against the bottom is more significant with the wake boat. And then last thing is they've requested funding at the state level for $400,000 to do a more in-depth study on a variety of factors. They're not sure how successful that'll be, but they are working on that. Okay. And then we have a video.
Minnesotans love their water, and we're gifted with some of the nation's most beautiful lakes and rivers. We use our water as well with a number of recreational activities. It's important to carry out research focusing on the health and safety of water, and that's what we're doing at the University of Minnesota. Hi, my name is Jeff Marr, and I'm Associate Director of Engineering and Facilities at the St. Anthony Falls Lab, University of Minnesota. In recent years, we've seen an increase in the size, weight, and power of recreational boats. Large pontoons, wake surf boats, and other recreational vehicles are intensifying the interaction between boats and water. In our recent study published in February of this year, we showed that wake surf boat heights, wave heights, are 2 to 3 times larger than typical recreational boats. The energies of these waves are 3 to 9 times larger. The propeller wash produced by wake surf boats, which have horsepowers ranging from 400 to 600 horsepower, likely are also increasing the impact in lakes by stirring up sediment, impacting aquatic vegetation and aquatic habitats that are in the lake. Now we're entering phase 2, where we are going to look into propeller wash produced by recreational boats, a topic that's hardly been researched. This research project is vitally important for those of us in Minnesota, but it's also important nationally and internationally. The research project will produce very important information to help us ensure ecosystem health, water safety, as well as provide the information we need to provide shared use recreational for all of us that want to use the water. Because we need to get in the water as soon as possible, we're funding this research effort through a crowdfunding campaign, and we're asking for your support. If you're interested in this topic, have concerns about recreational boats on your lake, or want information how best to operate your own boat, please consider supporting our research. Every dollar raised will go directly to support our research staff, the equipment and supplies we need, the boats, and so forth, to carry out this research as fast as possible. We all love our water, and it's important that our lakes and rivers remain available for generations to come.
It's being sent to the wrong thing.
We'll figure it out later.
The good news is everyone watching it live heard everything.
Great.
I can hear it.
Well,
Yeah.
one person heard it. Sorry about that. Yeah, well, we had the closed caption, and I think it looks like very, like you covered the things I just mentioned, because that was Jeff Marr, it looks like, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, we had on their first phase, we contributed, I believe, $2,000.
Okay.
And
Don't touch this knob. Don't touch this knob. Okay. Because that shuts down everything recording.
Oh, but I want to shut off the screen, so.
okay.
That is.
That, we're good.
That is.
Okay, wow. Okay. Okay, Scott, go ahead.
Okay. On phase one, we contributed $2,000, which I think did give us what you might call an oar in the water. You know, a piece of the action on this. I thought it was a very good use of a couple $1,000s of our reserves. And so I would like to move to spend probably an equal amount, unless somebody thinks we should contribute more. They want like, what, $159,000 or something, and they're maybe almost halfway there. So I would move that we spend out of cash reserves $2,000 to support phase 2 research.
Second. We have a motion and a second to provide another $2,000 for the study that's the U of M is undertaking. Any discussion? Meredith?
Sure. Just have a comment about it, because looking through it, I could see that I was going to have a question after the study came out. So just like life experience on the lake says, after a really busy day when there's tons of boats out there, the water doesn't look that dirty. It doesn't look like there's tons of sediment in it. And there's not a ton of weeds on your shoreline. But a windy day where the wind is coming into you, you'll look out there and the water is really turned up. It's brown. There's a lot of sediment in it, and there's lots of weeds on your shoreline. So my question probably is going to be, after this is done, how does this compare to wind? Because it seems like the wind does bring a lot of sediment into the water, and I'd like to see them write something in the study about that.
Yeah, and one of the things that he mentioned is it's really hard with wind, because the areas of the lake that some areas get heavy wind consequences, let's say, and others don't. And so to get a uniform, so to try to compare like that, it would be, okay, well, which spot on the lake would you compare it to? You know, would you compare it to like this side of the lake where maybe it's not so much, or that side of the lake? So I think it's good to ask those questions, and I think it may be a difficult thing for them to wrap their arms around, but they're the people that can wrap their arms around it. You know, they're the smart cats, right?
Excuse me. They're prevailing winds everywhere. And so that's why you see airports lined up the way they are, because they're all either one direction or the other. You're going to be in the prevailing wind. Often you'll rarely have a crosswind runway. So we probably know it probably wouldn't be too hard to figure out where the prevailing winds are coming from. It's usually like around here, like, I don't know, 220 degrees, and then the opposite side of that. So.
Okay, any additional discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second. I'll call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that passes. And so I guess that check would go out with the next month's checks, is that right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, or
But you can notify them if you want.
yeah, or to go out by credit card. I mean, it's an online donation thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how it works.
Check? Yeah, so I think the check is
Be on
cleaner
next
for us.
month's treasurer's report.
That sounds good. Okay, well, thank you. So we're on to unfinished business. The second item there, coordination with Rice Creek Watershed District. So I did connect with Matt Koshin of the Rice Creek Watershed District. And he and the Watershed District are going to prepare a summary of water quality data that's been collected in the past for White Bear Lake, and he will plan to attend our August 16th meeting to present the data and discuss any data gaps and any observations that he has regarding the data. And so that will be at our August meeting. And in my opinion, the goal is to try to develop a comprehensive database of White Bear Lake water quality data and establish a stronger working relationship with Rice Creek, and then also to determine if additional data would be beneficial for White Bear Lake, if doing additional sampling here and there would be beneficial. So that is, so he'll be at our August 16th meeting. Any questions on that at the moment?
I'm so happy to hear this.
Good. Well, thank you for putting the fire, or getting us going. Okay, so the next item, which I guess is the lake enforcement introduction, which was, yep, perfect. All right. Okay, so we're on to reports, action items, executive committee. The executive committee did not meet this past month, so no report there. Lake Quality Committee, Mike?
Yes. The swimmer's itch letter was sent out to the communities, and in your information, there is a copy of it. If you've never read it, very interesting reading. At least you should know that that's what your community can get in case they ask you about it. So you have the information there. Next thing is lake level. Tonight, or this afternoon, the lake level was at 923.97. 923.97. So it's an inch and a half lower than last month's meeting. But during that month, it went up quite a bit, and then it started to go down, and then it went up. And it depends on the rain and that. But it's been trickling down this last week or so. And the reason, I think, and I'm not a professional, but I think, is evaporation with the high winds. Hot weather, high winds, it evaporates. And it's just a natural thing that happens. So with the evaporation, it's gone down a little bit. It's still in great shape. I mean, 923.97 is wonderful.
Yeah, we haven't gotten that much rainfall.
No, we're actually below, I think, for the month.
Yeah, we're low for the month. We normally get over 4 inches in June, and we're around an inch so far. So
yeah, it's not good. Yeah, so it's holding up well despite that too. And the water temperature is a very comfortable 74 degrees. So it's time to get out those bathing suits and get in the lake. It's nice and comfortable. The last thing is approve the budget for money for treating of milfoil. Well, we have a budget item, so we don't really have to approve it, but I want to modify it a little bit. We have $12,000 to treat milfoil, which isn't much. I think I was reacting to 2020 when we budgeted like $25,000 and we only spent $5,000, so there's $20,000 in the general fund that was not used. And if we go back a few years, there's some years where it was low and we haven't. So rather than just keep budgeting for bigger amounts and not using it, I cut it way back to budgeted for $12,000 for this summer. We have a $7,500 grant from the DNR that we can use. It's supposed to offset our costs, but it's a grant that we will receive, so it would reduce what we would have to pay out. I want to add that to the $12,000, so now I'm at $19,500. Have no idea what's out there. I have looked. The milfoil did come back. We haven't been. It didn't move out of the lake. It's still there. I did talk with Steve McComas, and he said that people that did not treat their lake last year, and that was kind of a trend last year. There was a lot of people that weren't treating them because of the milfoil was low. They have an abundance of milfoil this year. We treated last year, and he said lakes that treated last year stayed ahead of the game, and they don't have as much this year. So if we spent $25,700 last year, I would like to add $5,500 to that $19,500, which gives me $25,000. It's over budget, but you can see that we have it in the general funds. We've already collected it in a previous year. So I would like to make a motion that we have available to spend for milfoil treatment this year up to $25,000, not to exceed $25,000. And of course, it'll be whatever it is. And if it goes way over $25,000, I guess I'll have to ask you if you want to have an emergency meeting or not. But I think we're safe. I think with talking with McComas and what we've done in the past, I think we're safe at $25,000. So I'd like to make a motion that we approve up to $25,000 for aeration water milfoil treatment for this summer.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Well, if it's more than that, we're going to have to do it anyway.
Well, if it's more than that, if it's $500 more than that, I'll just eliminate an acre somewhere. But if it's a couple $1,000s more than that, then I'll come back begging.
Yeah, but we'll give you the money then right out of our reserves. I mean, isn't that the point of the reserves?
Kind of like to follow the procedure.
Yeah, well, no, I think that's
the survey. Incidentally, the survey, as long as we're discussing this, will be next week. Sometime next week, it'll be done before the 4th of July, and because everything is just kind of delayed a little bit this summer, the treatment will be done after the 4th of July. And I will notify Scott and Meredith both when that is for social media and website information.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Just a question. Do you have extra room for someone to go out for the survey, depending on the day?
Pardon?
Do you have extra room in the boat for extra people to go out for the survey?
Yeah, it's a flat aluminum John boat. It's hot, but, you know.
Will you let me know what day?
And come on along and be prepared to look over the side. Yep. I'll let you know when it is.
Not me.
Yeah.
Okay, so any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So that passes. Mike, okay, so that's it for you? You're done with your report?
I'm done.
Okay, so the swimmer's itch, can you remind me what and I think you mentioned it last month, what's the typical window for swimmer's itch?
Well, now, except it's been cold, but now it's hot. So now through the cycle usually is over by the 4th of July.
And have there been any reports of swimmer's itch in the lake?
It's been, the water's cold. And it's, the cycle, the duck and the snails and all that. Well, the zebra mussels attached to the snails, and the snails aren't coming up near shore like they used to. So, but there was swimmer's itch last summer. So
We'll usually get a lot of hits on our website, Swimmer's Itch page, when it's getting bad. Last year, it really spiked.
Oh, that's good. That's good to know. Okay, any additional questions for Mike? Okay, thank you, Mike. Next, Lake Utilization Committee, Mark.
So we just had one item on. Everything else, I can go over some of the other things that went on this month, but just the one item, and it was one of the Birchwood docks that we had a question about. They answered the question. Do you have any comments?
I can tee it up if you
Sure.
want. Chair, this is on due to an amendment, obviously, as it's captioned. The city of Birchwood actually met last Tuesday, and I guess you could say there was a gentle person's agreement to actually move the placement of the dock 10 feet. And so it didn't make it into the original application. It was presented, it was approved, then it came up again. And so the Dock Association agreed to move it, and everyone agreed that it would be appropriate to come and ask permission, essentially, and alter the permit a bit to reflect that placement. So that's all this is. The city supports it. Obviously, the Dock Association runs the deal, and whatever materials are in the packet reflect that. So it's just a simple amendment to move the dock 10 feet.
Okay, and there isn't really anything in the packet. So so that's the deal to approve the slight change in their dock.
All it is a movement of the Birch Beach dock 10 feet to the west. from where it is currently permitted per their map, which would have been presented at the original permit request.
Okay, and so we need a motion, and we have to approve that, I guess.
I move to approve the amendment to move the dock 10 feet west.
Sherry, they did submit something, correct?
I haven't seen it. I told
You sent it to me. I've tried to find, we called, I was on the road all day today. I tried to find it. I'll find it, and I'll get it to you.
But it is reflected in what's been submitted. Yes. It exists.
I have seen it.
All right.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Have the neighbors been, has
Susie?
that been approved by the neighbors?
I'm sorry, Susie, what?
Has that been approved by the neighbors?
I believe it was at the request of folks that are on either side, plus the fact that this runs on the Birch Beach easement, so it's making more room for people to enjoy the easement, is my understanding.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Who made the second? I'm sorry, who seconded?
Scott?
My question was similar
Seconded it.
to Susie's. Is the homeowner to the west okay with the placement? And do you know how much room there is? There's enough room there for them to get to their dock and everything?
Yeah, there is no real issue with this because it is a nice wide easement,
Okay.
and so we're still predominantly in the middle of the easement itself. So it's just making more room for people to use the remaining area of the easement. So I don't think there's even that many boats on this particular easement. 16, something like that.
What's that?
How many boats are on that actual dock? 6. Okay, so it's a relatively lightly used dock. So.
Yeah, they went down this year. That dock had 8 on it last year.
Okay.
Dropped it down to 6.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that passes.
A couple other things I'd like to mention. A letter was sent out this week to 4711 Lake Avenue to remove one of their 5 boats from their dock. Also, a letter will be going out this week. I'll come in on Thursday, Sherry. And a letter will be going out to the wooden dock that's falling apart next to Optimus Beach to have that removed, as well as to Tallies. I'm not having very good luck communicating with the owner about straightening out the south dock to meet the drawing that we approved and not to have a curve in it, to have it go perpendicular from the header dock. So those 2 will go out this week as well. And that's it.
Okay, any questions for Mark?
I have a question regarding.
Oh, Susie?
I'm not sure that it's to you that I should be asking this, though. There's a buoy out in Birchwood that's out with probably beyond the ADUA of anybody, but it's not a legal buoy. Someone placed it there, I think, after the winter, and it's just sitting there. It's a small thing. It's probably about this big, and I'm wondering if that's something that needs to be removed. I think it could be a hazard for boaters.
We need to have an address of exactly where it is to go look at it.
Okay, it's 471.
Would the appropriate action, if it's not an approved buoy, would it be more appropriate for you to call the Ramsey County Water Patrol?
I don't know.
To check it out?
Or Washington County. I mean, Washington County sheriff requires permits and buoys.
Got it. Is this in Washington County? Or?
It's Ramsey
It
County.
would be Washington County. This isn't
It
Washington.
would be appropriate to start there to see if it's permitted and reference whatever
Well,
address.
the home that it's in front of is my neighbor,
Uh-huh.
and it's not his buoy. He has no idea where it came from, and he hasn't made any move to remove it. I don't feel real comfortable removing it myself, and I guess I would like somebody in authority to remove it. That, it's not a regulation buoy.
So start with the Ramsey County,
Or Washington County.
Start with Washington County and see where you get that way,
Oh, it is?
and let them know about it.
Okay.
And you could certainly call Ramsey County because they're used to policing their own buoys, and they probably license more of them. And they would go out and check it out. How many feet or yards is it out, do you think?
It's probably about 300 feet out.
Okay. So far enough out that it probably is a concern.
Right.
Okay, so good?
Okay.
There's rules somewhere in the Washington County website about how you need to get permits for that from the Washington County Sheriff. We dug that out like a couple of years ago, and I don't know quite where it is, but
But if you start with them, they should be able to help you.
Okay.
Okay. On to the Lake Education Committee, Scott and Meredith.
okay, we got a few things here. I'll start with the Adopt a Drain Challenge update. We see continued progress. I wish there was a little more progress so that it doesn't flat out before we reach our goal. But we're at 417. We started with 298 adopted drains in March, and now we're up to 417, but we want to get to 596, which would be double the original number by our November meeting.
Good.
So keep plugging away, and I can report that Dwayne and Wayne, the drains, are very happy. I cleaned them out the other day. Okay, that's the Adopt a Drain update. Social media.
So we're averaging between 2,000 and 4,000 views a post. I'm happy to get anything up there that you guys would like me to get up there. But this month I'm going to have some posts on yellow iris, more on Adopt a Drain. We'll continue to post about that every month. And then anything else you guys are interested in, I'm going to post about our treatment that you just added tonight, the milfoil treatment. And then the next one was Market Fest. We had Sherry look into it for us, and the last night of Market Fest, I believe it's July 28th, is the environmental night, and they offer free booths, and we're waiting to hear back from them still if there's a booth available, and then we'd either Scott or I or anyone who wants to join us would staff that booth that night to talk about our Adopt a Drain initiative, and then probably have some information on yellow iris.
Yeah, we would probably have like a couple handouts, and we might need like a placard or something. I don't know if we'd have to go out and rent a canopy or something. I don't know.
You know, we used to, when the Lake Level Resolution Committee was active, we would be at Market Fest, through the Market Fest, and we would just bring our own canopy and set it up, you know, something like that. So if anybody had a canopy that, like Mark does.
We're going to borrow Mark's canopy.
Got an 8x8 and a plastic fold-out table we used to use for tailgates. But
Okay, well, that'll probably give us enough.
Yeah. But that's a great idea.
And we're happy to promote anything else or answer any other questions that night, too.
Yeah. And it's historically, like when we were doing it before for a few years, they would give us the space for free. And it sounds like this one is similar. That's good. Okay, anything further?
That's it. Does anyone have any questions for Scott or me?
Okay, thank you. Next item, Treasurer's Report. Mike?
Treasurer's report. I have it. Okay. Treasury report. I'm sure you all studied it over, and if you have any questions, be glad to answer them. No income, just expenses this month. So I'd like to make a motion to approve payment. We have some debit cards here, so we don't have check numbers on it. So I guess I make a motion that we approve all debit card purchases and check number 4764 through check number 4770.
second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the checks and the debit card purchases. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that passes.
Okay, we also have the budget, which you have an opportunity to have a copy of, I'm sure. It's the same as we talked about at the last meeting. So it's all, we went through every number. We added for the boat inspection into lake education. And the website goes into lake education, and they're still left with some money to spend for their needs, which we would not refuse them anyhow. So it comes to $83,172. We are going to assess the communities $45,841, substantially less than the last 4 years. We have a pretty good handle on our income with the fees from the Commercial Bay Area and all the association docks and everything. So that comes to $37,331. So the largest contributor is our lake fees. Now we're going to deficit spend $10,000. We talked about that before, and everyone seemed to be in agreement of that. So our revenue is $83,000. Excuse me, our actual budget is $93,172. That's with the deficit spending of $10,000. An interesting fact is the very last sheet, which is what each community is assessed and the percentage. And on the far right is what it costs each person in that community. So if somebody says, well, you're spending money, say, well, it costs you, if you happen to live in a township, or in Matamita, excuse me, it costs you $1. So, Mark, you can...
I like that.
Yeah, you like that.
Better than what they did with my own.
Okay. So anyhow, are there any questions about our budget?
Do you want to make a motion to approve the budget, and then we can get a second and
I'd like to first thank Diane for all the work, Diane, and Charisse and Sherry for all the work they did on getting it all together. Then I'd like to make a motion that we accept the budget and send it to the cities.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the budget. Any discussion?
This is actually a reduction to the cities from last year.
Yes, substantial
I think
reduction.
in the letter we should point that out, and that we can't guarantee it'll.
The letter will be complimentary.
Yeah.
I don't know if we want to point out all these things and raise questions, but it's public knowledge. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we are planning on a deficit so we can reduce.
Yes.
And I think we should tell them that.
Yes.
Any additional discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, that passes. And thank you, Mike and Diane. Any questions for Mike? Okay, on to the board council report. Alan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Proud to report as a Delwoodian that I actually contribute more than twice what Mark does to the budget. But who's counting, right? Thanks for entertaining the law enforcement. I did invite Washington County to be here. They did not have a representative available. The first question I'd have is, would you like to meet someone from the Water Patrol if I can get someone to come in? All it would be is another face telling you the same thing essentially, but at least it's from the other side of the fence.
Can we forward them a list of our concerns?
Forward them to me and I'll send them along. So not sure if I honestly didn't get a response in terms of coming here. So if I renew it, then that's the best I can do, really.
So what does the board want? Do we want to bring somebody from Washington County out, or do we want to just make them aware of what our concerns were, same concerns that we expressed tonight, and
basically,
and not have them come out? Anybody feel strongly one way or the other?
I think that's a good idea. They don't actively patrol. They have a boat ready to go that they'll respond to. But I think if they know what our concerns are, that's probably good.
Okay. Do people generally think that?
Yeah.
All right. So, Alan, will you transfer that information?
Pass it along, yeah.
Yep,
Because
thank you.
Mark's dead on. I mean, they don't actively patrol here, mostly because they're on the St. Croix and some of the other big jurisdictions. Forest Lake obviously is a big lake, big marine, so they've got more territory and bigger water to patrol. So they don't have committed, I don't even think they have the reserves that Ramsey County does. So it's just a tougher nut for them to crack, but if they get the call, they will come and assist. So I will do that and pass on the comments as I heard them tonight. Prosecution, we prosecuted one case last month that emanated from the lake. It was a Ramsey County prosecution, and still waiting on the DNR to update us as to whether or not we get a conservation officer permanently placed. So when you see things like wildlife chasing, believe it or not, I've actually had that case. So DNR conservation officer was out here, and it ended up being a DWI arrest because someone who was out fishing decided it would be fun to chase the Canadian geese around. And so one of the conservation officers at the time saw that and actually chased down the boat that was chasing the geese and found out the guy was doing it because he might have had a few too many Pepsis and thought that would be a fun thing to do. So it is actively patrolled and used as a reason to pull over someone, those DNR statutes. I'm not sure necessarily if the Ramsey County or the Washington County folks would know where to reach for that exact statute, but I think they would see that as a nuisance and at least pull the boater over and say, don't do that. But a conservation officer would know which DNR rule that actually violates. So for what that's worth. But stay tuned. Hopefully we'll get one. I did talk to Ryan. Maybe I mentioned this last month. I can't remember. But Ryan was our designated patrol officer, and he got a bigger jurisdiction up in northern, basically still in the 10th district, but up Princeton-ish, basically. And so he got a bigger jurisdiction of his own, so that's where he went. He'd much rather be chasing down deer poachers and whatnot anyway, so that was kind of his dream gig. So they just haven't backfilled that position. COVID certainly didn't help, and all the other hits to law enforcement, so they're still trying. But anyway, I'd stand for questions, and I'll pass that on to Washington County.
Any questions for Alan?
I'll probably be training people at Ramsey too. I was going to go out there last week and then a last-minute scheduling kerfuffle with them for the new recruits that are going out on the reserves that'll be here. For whatever reason, it just didn't work out. So I'll be presenting what I think is important on this lake to the fresh faces in Ramsey County. So.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Alan.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, announcements. Sherry, do you have any announcements?
Not that I can think of.
Okay. I don't have any announcements. Anybody want to make any announcements? Okay. So we're on to item 10, which is adjournment. Would anybody like to make a motion to adjourn?
I will so move.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.